Hello and welcome back to the Doctor Who Marathon. I'm your host McEdam, and today we're going to be talking about the class episode Night Visiting, written by Patrick Ness and is directed by Ed Balaguetti. This story is the Tanya-focused episode of the series. Tanya is a character who's introduced, of course, in the first episode as the part of the group. She's the youngest member. She was described as being more intelligent than most people, so she actually graduated early, which is why she's surprising. I believe she stated to be 14 or 15 around the first episode, and as we've also had hints about her father passing away in the previous two episodes, the coach with the dragon tattoo, and for tonight we might die, and there's some of these teasers, little hints, and it's around here that these characters, these hints and these ideas actually trying to come forth. And so, yeah, the episode mainly focuses on her and her dealing with her relationship with her father, as the start of the episode sees her basically a flashback of her and her father and her family raising up, and it reminds me a lot of the Doctor visiting Clara's past, even though the Doctor's not in this situation. But it reminds me of that scene from the Rings of Akaten, where we see the family like grow up and then they have the kid, and then the father passes away. Of course, in Clara's case, it is her mother, but in her case, it is her father. So we basically get this great setup for this episode, a great dealing, and then mainly the episode's focus is around here, around this point. As well as other characters also dealing with their own stuff. But apart from Miss Quill, none of the characters really get an interesting plot, an interesting much to do. The Romanian character, who I can't remember his name at the top of it. I don't think his name's actually mentioned in the episode. He goes to Charlie and he basically explains in the episode that his parents kicked him out, and basically we see them to go to their bedroom and they have a sex scene, and they talk about like how their relationship is with his parents, because they're kind of homophobic, so he struggles a lot with his father, and then they've kicked him out, and so he's now moving with Charlie and Miss Quill. And there's nothing wrong with, like, gay representation. We need more of it. But here, like, the story has nothing to do with it. It's literally just here to give these characters, to fill space. And it's kind of really, like, clear, because we don't really get much of the boyfriend character, apart from he is the boyfriend to Charlie, and that's about it. We don't know anything about him, and it just seems really odd. Like, if it was even a straight relationship, this kind of story would feel forced, because we don't really feel much for these characters, or at least not in this relationship sense. We also have Ram and April also dealing with this alien incursion that's coming out. Essentially, at the start of the episode, we see that Tanya, played magnomously, brilliantly here by Vivian Oprah. She gets met by her father, seemingly out of the dead. The character Jasper, played by Co Branagh Holdbrook Smith. I really apologise if I butchered that name, who does a pretty good job here. He basically plays this alien entity known as a Larkin, who seemingly has these vines. It's almost like a Lovecraftian horror entity. Out of the time crack, all of these strings, these vines, almost vein-looking things, are going around all of... Is it London that they're set? And just like suck in all of the trying to take all of these people. It's very unclear what's actually happening. Some people seem to be just grabbed onto, and they're like, it's like they're cocooned or some sort, whilst others kind of see their dead relatives and dead loved ones. For example, Ram actually sees his girlfriend, the one who died, in front of his face in For Tonight We Might Die. However, it's really strange in their plotline because she's brought up and she's like, there's this scary, almost weeping angel moment on the screen. But yet it's never like a big deal, which kind of really goes against Ram's character. It's clear that the story is mainly focused on Tanya, and so most of the characters are being pushed to the side on this one. But yeah, Tanya is basically the main plot, the main thickness of this episode is Tanya and this creature pretending to be her father, basically trying to persuade her to touch him, to which we see throughout the episode means that she will basically be absorbed by this creature, which apparently eats souls, or at least the way Tanya's father basically describes is that this creature basically is like a hive intelligence of some sort that, or at least this is the way I find it. It's like it's a hive mind that it takes other souls and it basically lives in eternity. It absorbs the energy of souls, but souls can never really truly die. So it's according to Jasper, which might not be accurate because he's trying to tempt Tanya into going with him, is that it's a perpetual state of energy. Again, what makes this great is that most, if not all, the information we get from the creature of the Larkin comes from the Larkin itself. So we don't know if what's true or what's not. And that really does help the episode of sorts. There's some really strange details here in terms of Jasper. There's this, he doesn't blink for the majority of the episode, and when he does, and he starts slowly getting gets irritated of sorts, when he starts blinking, there's this squinting, squashy sound effect, heavily implying he's not human and he's not who he claims to be, as well as the way he gets up, like people who stand up as Larkins, their body is held up by this vein, by this vine-like limb. And so, yeah, but Tanya's not the only character who is also dealing with this. Like I said, Ram sees his girlfriend, April, even though it has been stated that, she's a very vulnerable character, but not really vulnerable. She does, she's not glass, but, people treat her as vulnerable. She doesn't actually get an entity to persuade her. It's really strange, especially when you consider that she's supposed to be the main character of the series, or at least most episodes are presumably hers, but I actually kind of glad in a way because it gives you focus on other characters. Miss Quill actually sees her sister, and we get to learn actually a little bit more about the culture and her life prior to meeting with Charlie and the school kids, and it's really fascinating stuff. I really like how it's just like she's essentially an anti-hero. She's a character who might have been a really great Doctor Who villain, but because of circumstances, because of the thing in her brain, she is essentially an unwilling good guy. We hear these details about how when they're really, really young, essentially all the kids have to kill each other to know that they're the strongest one, to know that they are ready for the outside world. It's a very hostile environment that they live in, and Miss Quill is playing for time, and at first the Larkin tries to persuade her to take her hand, and it's I missed you, you feel bad and sorry for killing your sister, and I can take that pain away. And then it realizes that doesn't work, and then it tries to tempt her with a gun, trying to tempt her to get into another fight, another grapple, as Miss Quill really likes a good on fight. And a lot of really great fun interactions there, even though if they're just for mainly fun. But like I said, the main grit of the story comes from Tanya and her relationship with her father. And now the story does a decent enough job of reconnecting that relationship. You do really feel bad for Tanya as she is trying to. She kind of knows, she's dealt with aliens before by the prior 2 episodes, and as well as she kind of knows what's going on, but she is really tempted. She wishes that this is her father, and it gets to a point where, like, the way he describes it, it's almost like it doesn't really matter if it's her father or not. The Larkin can take away her pain, take away this sorrow she has that her father passed away. This episode, I forgot to mention, is also set on the 2-year anniversary of his death, as we see in the opening sequence. But there's some really strange, odd moments, some strange, odd dialogue. There's this whole backstory on why she's named Puddle, which it reminds me of that scene from Cyberwoman, which everybody laughs about, and they do the same thing here. Like, it's disgusting for the sakes of disgusting, and I don't understand why both Torchwood and Class do this. Sarah Jane Adventure is the only, like, and K9 as well, is the only 2 stories where bodily fluids isn't mentioned at all. How weird is that? That is just, I don't know, that's really strange to me personally. And the story does a great job at, like, trying to pull your strings, trying to pull your emotions for the most part. By the end of the episode, we are supposed to, at this point, try and get the feeling of her being persuaded, being grabbed. However, I think the final act of the story, which should have been the main, what this whole thing is building up to, is Tanya and her decision, I think really does kind of fall flat, as suddenly Jasper, the Larkin presented as Jasper, suddenly just becomes a cliched villain when April and Ram comes into the room, and he's just like, right, you come with me or I'll kill them both. And there's this scream and this pain. I do understand the sentiment of it. Ram does state it's like, you can't let him take you, otherwise your mother will feel that exact same pain you would if you were to leave, and then the Larkin can feed on her as well, and it's just a repeating cycle. But like with the previous Class episode, the coach with the dragon tattoo, the main grip of the story, the climactic, it just feels really let down and really quick. Like, it's like, right, we've built up like what the story is supposed to be learning, but we've only got about like 2 seconds left for the episode, so let's just get these beats really quick. As she does grab the Larkin, she does let the Larkin grab her hand. However, as she explains, instead of feeding it her emotions of her pain and sorrow, it's the hatred she has that her father kind of left her. And that has some really immoral complications with this episode, I personally feel, because the story is kind of implying the hatred you have for your loved ones passing away uncontrollably is a really powerful and almost good feeling, I suppose. And it poisons the Larkin, but it poisons it enough that it stops. Only then for Miss Quill to come around and hit the Larkin from the bus, and because it doesn't feed on Tanya, the whole system basically reverts back into the crack, and everybody else seems to forget. And the story basically ends with all our characters all meeting up and all cheering. It's like, hey, we did it, how cool is that? But Miss Quill is standing. I really do like the directing in this story. Ed has done a fantastic job at the opening and the last scene here, where Miss Quill is like, she's trying to like interact, but she clearly doesn't feel like she fits. So, and these characters are kind of ignoring her because, she's much more the older, and she is a much more amoral character. And you can kind of feel it in her face that, she's kind of missing out or at least that's the implication I got, that she's missing out on the fact that she is not really part of the team as of yet. And that is Night Visiting. Overall, I think it's an episode with some great moments, some decent ideas, but I think the majority of the episode kind of falls flat, with a few subplots that go nowhere, and the main meat of the episode having some really great moments, some really great beats, but leads into a finale of the episode which really doesn't live up to the expectation the episode wants you to have. I do like the almost Twilight Zone feel of the episode, with the Lovecraftian horror creature persuading people with their dead loved ones. It's a great inspiring story, but I feel like this kind of story of people being tempted by past loved ones to be like absorbed by a creature that eats essentially souls has been done before, and has been done 100 times better in other media, probably even in Doctor Who as well. So this is kind of a letdown. So anyway, that's Night Visiting. So join me next time, where the Doctor will be teaching a university class as he'll be running away from strange alien puddles, as we get introduced to our new companion. So join me next time for the pilot, and I'll see you next time on the Doctor Who Marathon. Ta!